You can listen to The Professional Left wherever you get your podcasts, on Netroots Radio, or at our website, proleftpod.com, where you can also contribute to this podcast. There's a PayPal button at our website, or you can mail us a letter and or contribution at Post Office Box 9133, Springfield, Illinois, 62791.
This is the podcast for March 31st, 2026. It's not safe for work.
Recorded live from the Cornfield Resistance, where gravity is not optional and it's not God's punishment for being naughty. It's The Professional Left with Driftglass and Blue Gal. Where, Blue Gal, did it all go wrong? Where did it all go wrong? And I'd like you to put a little Bible bitch stank on it if you would be so kind.
All right, Driftglass, but first of all, I've got something I've got to say.
Uh-oh.
April Fool's Day is canceled because of Kristi Noem's balloon-boobed husband.
Oh.
Look it up.
Yeah.
It's all over social media. Anyway, that's all we're going to say about that today.
Let's just say, friend of the pod, Bob Seska, is having a ball with this today. So.
Yeah. And it is not atypical of evangelical relationships.
No, it is not.
People go and do other things and have extracurricular activities and pretend that they're holier than thou to everybody else. So, But Driftglass, in answer to your question about where did it all go wrong and you want a Bible bitch stank on it.
I do.
Many of the best people say it all went wrong in 1099 when St. Anselm of Canterbury completed his Cur Deus Homo, Why God Became Man, which, quote, introduced the satisfaction theory of atonement. You don't even need to know any of this. I'm just explaining it.
There's no quiz. Yeah.
No, what happened was this really fundamentally shaped Western Christian understanding of substitutionary sacrifice. And what I mean by that, Anselm argued that human sin constitutes a violation of God's divine honor that requires reparation. And humanity can't pay it, so that means that a God-man, Christ, has to come and pay it for us.
Right, because we're all stank up with original sin, so we can't pay for it.
So we can't pay our debt, our reparation to God for that. So Jesus had to come do it. And that is the total basis for I'm not perfect, I'm just forgiven.
100%. 100%.
Just cheap grace. As long as you do the communion and give money to the church and pretend you're a Christian person, your husband can have all the, boob porn, balloon boob porn they want to participate in.
Honestly, if I know Jesus, I know him pretty well. We're kind of on a first name basis. He would not object to you getting off on balloon boobed porn.
He never talked about your kink being a problem.
It's irrelevant. It's completely irrelevant.
It's irrelevant.
It's completely relevant when that is your secret life and you invoke divinity for persecuting others. Right. For doing what you're doing in private or worse.
Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites.
Hypocrites, absolutely.
And the Pharisees were the ones walking around pretending they were better than everybody else. And that they were the true Christian voice of America or whatever. So depicting God as a narcissistic sadist who demands the torture and murder of his son in order to get the human race out of hock to original sin. That's St. Anselm.
Yeah.
And it's terrible theology.
Yeah.
On its face, it's terrible. It's as is the whole ridiculous notion of original sin.
Yeah. Ludicrous.
We're all just, right. Adam,
doomed
the Adam
before we were ever
thing.
born. Right.
Yeah.
It's all terrible theology with disastrous knock-on effects. You can trace enormous atrocities after atrocity back to this piece of theology, but it's also very profitable. How do you think the Catholic Church paid for all those lovely cathedrals, Blue Gal? Well, it's by selling indulgences, which were the certificates of forgiveness, which you could buy to get yourself out of an eternity of torment in hell, which hell is also something the church just completely fucking made up to scare people into giving them money. To Old Testament priests, where the whole idea of sacrifice comes from in this context. The notion that a sacrifice to God should involve torture, followed by the most brutal, gruesome death imaginable, would have sounded insane. Now, Jesus, if you believe he existed, and we're not asking that you do, just believe that other people do believe this, was lawfully executed by imperial Roman authorities for sedition and treason against Rome and Caesar. The same crimes that got thousands of others executed by Rome in exactly the same way. So today, as we approach Easter and Passover, none of that sin and sacrifice talk here. No. Instead, we're going to talk about the subject of death and rebirth.
Right. And I just want to reiterate what you just said about the Roman soldiers. Because Jesus was just another guy.
Just another guy.
A rabble-rouser that needed to be made an example of.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And in our last episode, we talked in depth about whether or not the America we once knew is gone for good. Whether we are living in a kind of post-apocalyptic dystopia where the old order has collapsed, and if so, what might come next. The German-American historian and philosopher Hannah Arendt wrote this in 1954 in her essay Between Past and Future. And note that when she talks about prejudice, she literally means the act of pre-judgment. Quote, "The disappearance of prejudices simply means that we have lost the answers on which we ordinarily rely, without even realizing they were originally answers to questions. A crisis forces us back to the questions themselves and requires from us either new or old answers, but in any case, direct judgments. A crisis becomes a disaster only when we respond to it with preformed judgments, that is, with prejudices. Such an attitude not only sharpens the crisis, but makes us forfeit the experience of reality and the opportunity for reflection it provides," unquote.
And you can see it all around us. The people who respond to escalating madness on the right with, both sides do it. That is what she's talking about, which is that's their preconceived idea of how to cope with everything. And they're not learning from reality, which is observable all around us. So this is exactly where we are now. Our belief in our institutional safeguards and protections is gone. Our assumption that a free press would stand strong against authoritarianism on behalf of the democracy that made a free press possible in the first place, that's gone. And most importantly, the quaint mythology that the rise of an openly corrupt lying demagogue could never happen here is gone. Our faith that the solid citizens of a great nation could never, ever be turned into fascist zombies in sufficient numbers to tear it all down just to make liberals cry, that assumption is now long gone.
This is from deep inside the before time. The New York fucking Times, September 20th, 1990, in an editorial entitled The Politics of Slash and Burn. We're going to read you the first paragraphs and then the last paragraph. Quote, "Sick, traitors, bizarre, self-serving, shallow, corrupt, pathetic, shame. The group that urged political candidates to use these epithets has since regretted suggesting the word traitors in response to inquiries from the press." The press didn't like you to call somebody a traitor.
Yeah, that day's over.
But the others were allowed to stand. They appear in a glossary that a conservative Republican group recently mailed to Republican state legislative candidates. The group is GOPAC, the GOP Political Action Committee. Its general chairman is Representative Newt Gingrich. With the pamphlet, "Language, a Key Mechanism of Control," comes a letter from Mr. Gingrich himself. Its message to candidates: step up invective. Use words like these to describe opponents. These words work. Mr. Gingrich's injunction represents the worst of American political discourse, says the New York Times in 1990.
Yeah.
Which reached a low during the dispiriting presidential campaign of 1988.
Unquote.
Unquote.
I think we all remember where we were, Blue Gal, when the the candle of democracy was snuffed out for the 1988 presidential campaign. So, as you can clearly see, as early as 1990, America's newspaper of record actually recognized the threat, going so far as to furrow its brow and shake a disapproving finger in its direction. And yet the political establishment that they served took no substantive action whatsoever to actually stop the rise of Gingrich because of their deeply inbred insularity and childlike faith that between the wise American voters and some completely other group of sober men of the establishment, someone else would surely step in to put an end to such toxic and radical flapdoodle. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but sooner or later, those other heroes will get around to it. And this is from the same article. Quote, "The nakedness of GOPEC offering also makes it useful. There must be limits to the negative politics that the voters will bear." Jesus. The bald appeal to invective will certainly probe those limits. For now, it should be said that some adjectives in the glossary aptly describe the glossary itself. Shallow, sensationalist, and yes, shameful, unquote.
It's such a shame that George Will and David Broder let us down, Driftglass.
They totally did. They very sad. Very, very sad.
Rush Limbaugh broke through and George Will and David Broder did not. Yeah. Anyhow, 4 years later, neither the wise American voters nor the sober men of the establishment, by which we mean George Will and David Broder, had shown up to save the day.
Oh, I'm not sure about Will and Broder, because all of these people are always expecting some other group somewhere.
Yeah.
We'll take care of this. Yeah, somebody out there, surely someone out there will take care of this. Not us. Not us. That's not our job. But somebody will show up.
David Broder spent a lot of time masturbating to Sarah Palin, too.
Yes, he did. He surely did.
Yeah.
Thank you for putting that image in my head, by the way. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Happy Blogiversary, Driftglass. All right. But, this is very sad that the sober men of the establishment didn't show up to save the day. Sure, those crazy liberals had been jumping up and down screaming that the party of Lincoln was dying and the last remnants of Eisenhower Rockefeller Republicans were being displaced by billionaire-backed ghouls and madmen. But really, who listens to liberals anyway? Instead, Rush Limbaugh and his brand of self-pitying, white grievance peddling, misogyny, gay bashing, and rancid bigotry became the hottest thing on AM radio, being carried on hundreds of stations across the country and spawning dozens and dozens of wretched little imitators, while Limbaugh's shitty books shot to the top of the New York Times bestseller list. And notice, David Brooks, your pal David Brooks, said, I didn't know what Rush Limbaugh was talking about. I don't know.
Yeah, they never spoke of him. They never spoke of him at all. Nope.
But he ushered in a whole new era in ways for unscrupulous conservative rage hustlers to get rich, telling morons the lies they desperately wish to believe. Racist, misogynist morons, what they wanted to hear.
Yeah, and they're willing to pay for it with their money and their votes. So instead, Republicans, led by that shallow, sensationalist, and yes, shameful Newt Gingrich, took control of both the Senate and, crucially, the House of Representatives, which the GOP had not held in 40 years. And in his new role as Speaker of the House, Gingrich went to work immediately on an ambitious program of sabotaging the government, personal adultery, and trying to topple the Clinton administration by any means necessary. And boy,
I would just let you know, Driftglass, his 6-year mistress for 6 years became Trump's ambassador to the Vatican.
Yeah, it was a big fuck you to the Vatican.
Yeah.
By the way, if any of this sounds familiar, this is from one of my most popular posts. Most of it is. Some of it is anyway. It's from 2017. The post is from 2017, a year before there was anything called the Bulwark. And it's entitled, if you want to look it up, In the Beginning. It's a long and detailed explainer of the history of the modern Republican Party, from Reagan's termination of the Fairness Doctrine in 1987 until the rise of Trump in 2016. For the record, by the way, most popular in this context means that it's gotten a little more than 33,000 views, which for a dirty hippie blogger from flyover country is pretty huge. But then consider that this is 30,000 views compiled over the course of a decade. And an absolute MAGA bottom feeder like Tim Pool tallied 3 times that number of downloads every single day.
Yep. Candace Owens roughly pulls 100 times that number every day.
And good old Ben Shapiro pulls around 120 times that every day.
Tucker Carlson, 150 times that per day.
So you'll all forgive me, I hope, if I sound a little tired today, because I am, because it's late in the evening. My resolve is still as firm as ever, but today marks the 21st anniversary of me launching that little blog of mine at the strong encouragement of the late, great Steve Gilliard. And in all that time, the monsters have only gotten bigger and louder and crueler and stupider and much, much better funded.
I would really like to know what Steve Gilliard thinks of the Afro Man trial.
Oh, he'd be dancing in the streets.
He would be dancing in the streets.
This is genius. This is absolute genius. This guy is a hero, an American hero, dressed up in American flags and speaking with the kind of the precision and the bluntness of an attorney who's really angry.
There is an Instagram video that I watched today from a hospital where an old lady had had spinal surgery and was finally being released from the hospital, having been there for 3 or 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. And she's rolling out of the hospital in the wheelchair, and the entire staff is alongside the hallway. And she's being pushed through as a survivor and a heroine.
Right.
And it's somewhere in the Midwest. I don't know where it is, but everybody in the hospital is white. So that you know where it is, someplace.
Right. That's right.
And she's being pushed through. And the music that they are sending her out with is Lemon Pound Cake by Afro Man. And Afro Man is the one that posted it to Instagram to say, bless this lady and her cure and her survival and her surgery. And we're so glad she blessing, bless, 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 that kind of talk. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, wow, that whole event, that whole thing has been absorbed into popular culture.
It absolutely has. Yep.
Even some hospital where everyone is white, and that means you know exactly where it is, is playing Lemon Pound Cake.
They know about Afro Man. They know about Lemon Pound Cake.
They know about victory. They know about celebration and victory. Mm-hmm. And she's got her finger up in the air because she's being wheeled out. Yeah. But she's got her fingers up in the air dancing in her little wheelchair to Afro Man Lemon Pound Cake. Anyway, happy blogiversary, Driftglass. Well, I am proud of you.
Thank you very much.
And I think you sugarcoated how strong encouragement Steve Gilliard gave you.
Yeah, he told me to get out.
He kicked you out of there.
He said, I'm tired of posting your shit, taking it from the comment section and putting it up on the front page, which is exactly how he got exited from Daily Kos. He was the first front page author they ever had. Yeah. And eventually he just made his way out and said, well, I should start my own thing. And that's how it used to be. Back in the day, Blue Gal, once upon a time, if you've ever read David Brin's The Uplift War, it's like that. Each of us lifted up someone else, hopefully more than once, hopefully several people, and encouraged them to do this thing, which is how the liberal blogosphere became a thing.
And Driftglass this week is doing Mike's blog roundup at Crooks and Liars, lifting up smaller blogs.
One of the great traditions.
They still do at Crooks and Liars.
Yeah, that's one of the great traditions of Crooks and Liars. One of the great traditions of Crooks and Liars is lifting up bloggers that you might not hear about otherwise.
Mike Finnegan, rest in peace and rest in power. Peace, man. All right. Mm-hmm. But now let's jump ahead 6 years from the 1990 Times editorial, where we find the ground sufficiently prepared by a cohort of Gingrich clones running the House, backed up by a well-financed army of conservative radio talkers, think tanks, prestige magazines, book publishers, and TV preachers, that Roger Ailes was finally able to realize his lifelong dream of creating a Republican propaganda television network and, let's face it, sexual predator petting zoo, when he and Rupert Murdoch launched Fox News in October of 1996.
Which is starting to be a long time ago, Blue Gal.
Yeah.
And from this moment on, From the moment the party of Lincoln chose to turn itself into the party of Jefferson Davis in order to win elections, the GOP set itself on a direct path to eventually nominating and electing a monster like Trump.
And still, the mainstream Beltway media went right along with it because money. Rubbing their magic Beltway lamps and reassuring the public that sooner or later, the wise American voters or the sober men of the establishment would swing into action.
Just wait, just a little bit longer.
And by the way, Joe Scarborough kept pretending he was that person.
Yeah, and he didn't fool anyone on the left, by the way.
And still, the ever more dire warnings from the left were completely ignored by Morning Joe and the respectable media as the shrill ravings of a few liberal cranks.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they had Cheetos dust all over their chest. Oh.
That was Scarborough's estimation of bloggers.
Yeah,
living in mom's basement, Cheeto dust smeared on your T-shirt, useless, pointless, just a bunch of blabbermouths who don't know anything.
Yep.
And they still are. And that's still their opinion of us.
Yeah.
And as we've written literally hundreds of times on our own blogs and said hundreds of times on this podcast, once the Republican Party learned that neither the media nor the wise American voters nor the sober men of the establishment were ever going to make them pay a price for their campaign of ginned up hysteria and fake scandals and government shutdowns and witch hunts and endless lying during the Clinton administration, it was game over, baby.
Yep. That kind of cynical, overt political thuggery became their go-to playbook, and a dress rehearsal for the outright seditious vandalism they carried out not only on January 6th, that wasn't when it started.
No.
They carried it out during the Obama administration.
And I really would like to ask our Never Trump allies, I will never get a chance, ever. What were you thinking during the Obama administration when your party turned clearly, the mask came off and the rabid racist lunacy of those people. And you just kept trying to get Republicans elected, keeping your head down. What were you thinking during the Bush administration when it all turned to shit and it turned out you'd been lied to and you stuck with the Republican Party? What were you thinking? Why did you stay? If you're a gay or lesbian Republican and the Republican Party used gay bashing to get George Bush reelected in 2004, why did you stay? Yeah. What was the allure of working for a party that explicitly told you that they hated you and wanted you to cease to exist?
Yep.
Which, once again, during the Obama administration, the legacy media either ignored the vandalism outright or blamed, of course, both sides, because that's by now a cottage industry, or actually blamed Barack Obama for Republican intransigence. Now, if you just go back and read some of the Obama-era editorials written by legacy media conservative stalwarts who later professed utter shock that their party had nominated and elected the king of the birthers, you will be surprised. Go back and read the late Michael Gerson, and you'll find him feeding the frenzied, racist hatred of Obama in column after column after column for 8 straight years. This pious, evangelical Christian man who wrote speeches for George Bush, fed the mob relentlessly for 8 fucking years. And then, once Trump was nominated, you'll find him stumbling around, trying to explain where did all these hateful racists come from and who were spewing their bile in the name of Jesus.
And speaking of Jesus in this season of death and resurrection, we're going to do a short sidebar on the 2 best Easter movies ever.
Yeah. And if you have other suggestions, pass them along, but you're not going to knock out number 1 and number 2. Number 1 is, of course, the 10 Commandments. This is my Easter's It's a Wonderful Life.
Are we going to have to watch that this weekend, Driftglass?
It's mandatory, Blue Gal. Or I can just quote it all from memory if you prefer.
Moses, yes.
Yeah. But also, number 2 is The Day the Earth Stood Still, which is a case where the screenwriter, a man named Edmund North, managed to do something miraculous. He transformed a really excellent 1940 short story called Farewell to the Master about a male protagonist named Cliff Sutherland observing a giant space robot named Newt in which the humanoid ambassador is barely seen. He turned that into a fantastic 90-minute movie about a humanoid space Jesus ambassador with an urgent message for humanity his killer robot, a war widow, and her son. Which, if you want to hear about this in greater depth, you'll find in episode 24 of our Science Fiction University episode, Farewell to the Original Plot.
The shorter version is this. The big bombshell at the end of Farewell to the Master is that the giant space robot named Newt in the story was the actual brains behind everything. And the human named Klaatu, who had been shot and was dying, was a replicant who had been manufactured by Newt to make first contact with humans go more smoothly. As for the movie, this is from a 2001 article by Anton Karl Kozlovic entitled From Holy Aliens to Cyborg Saviors, Biblical Subtexts in 4 Science Fiction Films in the Journal of Religion and Film. We need to subscribe to that, Driftglass. It's a foregone conclusion.
I thought we already did.
It's a tax deduction.
I thought we already did, but okay.
No, we didn't.
Okay.
Quote, Edmund H. North himself admitted that the parallels between the story of Christ were intentional. From Klaatu's earthly name of Carpenter to the betrayal by Tom Stevens, and finally to his resurrection and ascent into the heavens at day's end. It was my private little joke. I never discussed this angle with producer Julian Blaustein or director Robert Wise, who, by the way, also made The Sound of Music about a nun, because I didn't want it expressed. I had originally hoped that the Christ comparison would be subliminal, unquote. Yeah. Fail.
Big fail. Big fail. And the comparisons go even deeper than that. In the movie, Klaatu is also capable of performing miracles to convince the doubters. He stops all generated power on Earth for half an hour, except for hospitals and airplanes in flight. In another great use of montage, we see that everything from hydroelectric generators to traffic in Paris and London to milkshake machines to a tractor on the White House lawn is dead.
Now, Klaatu's most unaffected and friendly relationship is with the little boy Bobby. And that too is straight out of the book of Matthew. Quote, let the little children come to me and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of God belongs to such as these, unquote.
Yeah. And Bobby's mother, who's named Helen, provides, by the way, who played it? Who played Helen?
Oh gosh, I know, I can see your face. Roald Dahl's wife. Isn't that terrible? That's what I remember her.
It's not Barbara Stanwyck.
No, it's she was in that movie with Paul Newman too.
Mm-hmm. She was in HUD, I believe.
HUD, yeah. What's her name?
I don't know. I was asking you.
Oh, come on. I got to look it up now.
Okay. We're doing a little live research here, people.
We're going to, Patricia Neal. I got
Patricia Neal, that's right. Patricia Neal.
I got it. I didn't have to look it up. It just had to relax my brain a minute. Okay.
Sometimes the threat of looking it up is enough to make your brain go, all right, fine, I'll give it up.
We're leaving all this in, by the way.
But by the way, this is how nerds think. I don't remember the name, but I remember the movie she was in with Paul Newman at that time and who directed it.
She had a stroke. I remember that Roald Dahl nursed her back to health and then she left him. I remember the things that my mother always knew who slept with who in Hollywood and in the art scene. Yeah. So those are the stories and the connections I make.
That's how nerd brain gets wired.
Yeah, because my mother wired my brain that way. Okay, I'm sorry.
Bobby's mother, who's called Helen in the movie, does provide a very serviceable Mary Magdalene. Mm-hmm. She's there when he dies, and she is the first to see him resurrected in his spaceship/tomb. And when he's resurrected, we can see that he has a wound in his side.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Subtle.
But crucially, and tying this back to St. Anselm's terrible theology, Klaatu was not a bloody sacrifice for the sins of the world. And his robot Gort is not divine retribution for sin. Klaatu was here to deliver a message vital to all humanity. He was killed on the orders of a fearful government, and the killing was done by the military. It's kind of like the story of Jesus of Nazareth, Driftglass. It's very Roman.
It's very Roman. It's very Roman. And frankly, it's very ICE thugs in Minneapolis.
Oh, yeah, it is.
You know?
It is.
And Gort, the robot Gort, is simply the idea of consequences incarnate. Consequences that are built into the system, just like gravity. If you step off a building and you plunge to your death, that's not God's punishment for you for your sins. That's just gravity. It's actions and consequences, not sins and retribution.
Now, we said we're going to talk about the themes of the season, death and renewal, and we've given you enough of the former, so you might ask, but what about the latter? Where's the renewal, Driftglass?
Yeah, where is it? Okay, well, since you asked so nicely.
I whined.
And since we mentioned cathedrals earlier, we're pretty sure you remember this from the New York fucking Times, April 15th, 2019, quote, "Fire mauls beloved Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. Notre Dame Cathedral, the symbol of the beauty and history of Paris, was scarred by an extensive fire on Monday evening that caused its delicate spire to collapse, bruised the Parisian skies with smoke, and further disheartened a city already back on its heels after weeks of violent protests. The spectacle of flames leaping from the cathedral's wooden roof, its spire glowing red and then turning into a virtual cinder, stunned thousands of onlookers who'd gathered along the banks of the Seine and packed into the plaza of the nearby Hôtel de Ville, gasping and covering their mouths in horror and wiping away tears. It is like losing a member of one's family," said Pierre-Guillaume Bonnet, a 45-year-old marketing director. "For me, there are so many memories tied up in it." Around 500 firefighters battled the blaze for nearly 5 hours. By 11 p.m. Paris time, the structure had been saved and preserved as a whole, the fire chief, Jean-Claude Gallet, said. The two magnificent towers soaring above the skyline had been spared, he said, but 2/3 of the roof was destroyed, unquote.
The April 16th, 2019 edition of the New York fucking Times did a full spread on how the Notre Dame Cathedral fire spread. Then there was this from the Times on July 16th, 2019, with this headline, quote, "Notre Dame came far closer to collapsing than people knew." The article details the mistakes that led to the fire. For example, the alarms inside the cathedral did go off, but the church guard sent to check on it went to the wrong building, and critical moments were lost. Then there's a timeline of what happened and how firefighters managed to save the building from complete destruction. Then, as you cathedralologists might recall, there was much back and forth about what to do next. It should be restored exactly as it was. No. It should be completely redesigned. No. The land should be repurposed. And on and on.
And then there was this from NBC News about Emmanuel Macron's completely insane plan. Quote, "Notre Dame fire, Macron's 5-year rebuilding pledge is unrealistic, experts warn. It will certainly take years, perhaps even decades, until the last damage caused by this terrible fire will be completely repaired. So French President Emmanuel Macron's pledge Tuesday to restore the fire-devastated Notre Dame within 5 years was at odds with experts who predicted that restoring the jewel of Gothic architecture would most likely take much longer. A host of specialized artisans and skilled workmen will need to be gathered from around France and likely beyond. These include master stonecutters, mortar makers, carpenters, roofers, quarrymen, and sculptors." Speaking before Macron's announcement, Emily Guret, a professor of medieval history at England's University of Kent, anticipated restoration work on the 850-year-old icon would take around 2 decades, unquote. And then,
5 years later,
comes this story from NBC News.
A magnificent rebirth in the heart of Paris. 5 years after a devastating fire tore through Notre Dame Cathedral, the rebuilt Gothic landmark officially reopened today. Though not damaged by the flames, Notre Dame's bells rang again in a ceremony filled with pomp and prayer, music and singing. The ceremony started outside, with the Archbishop of Paris striking the main door of the cathedral with his staff made from burned wood recovered from the fire. The crowd giving a standing ovation to the heroic firefighters, artisans, and builders who worked tirelessly to save and restore the cathedral. The exterior lit up with merci, French for thank you.
And here's the thing. There was one major modernizing element added to the new building. Can you guess what it is? Well, let's turn to Fire Rescue One magazine.
Now you're just giving it away, Blue Gal.
April 15th, 2024, quote, Rebuilding Notre Dame, Modern Fire Solutions Blended with Historic Architecture. 4 fire suppression tactics were included in the restoration of the beloved Paris landmark. It was apparent that fire protection in the renovated Notre Dame de Paris has been a priority in the restorations, not only for the protection of both this historic structure, but also for the safety of visitors who will daily come to see it, unquote.
So, in answer to our original question, yes, we can rebuild our democracy. We could even make it better. You know, build back better. Hey.
Build back better, everybody. See?
Okay, title of the show, Build Back Better. Thank you, Joe Biden. We could install our own upgraded fire suppression systems to strengthen the institutions that were supposed to protect us, and they failed. We can codify and outlaw all the depraved actions Trump has taken that were never codified before because no one thought any elected U.S. president in their right mind would ever do such things. So it was all on the honor system. We will sue outfits like Fox News and Hate Radio into the ground, fund the hell out of a genuine liberal media. And from the grassroots of the Republican Party to party leadership, start treating Republican voters with the same kind of stinky diaper contempt that the legacy media has meted out to us liberals for the past 40 years.
What you got to do is you got to take those Fox News and Hate Radio employees and put them on the stand.
Yeah.
And
for years.
That happened today with Alex Jones's group again.
Mm-hmm.
And they put one of his employees on the stand. And they said, oh, I'm under oath? Oh, no, it was all a lie.
Yeah.
And we pretended that some guy was beheading American women and Christians at the Rio Grande. Yeah, that wasn't the Rio Grande. We found a little puddle thingy that was running down, looked like a stream. And we told everybody it was the Rio Grande, and we created a head, a severed head. And we made it all up.
Oh, they put a couple of Doge assholes under oath.
Yeah, under oath.
And amazed there are consequences to lying.
Right.
Actual penalties for lying. Amazing how honest people suddenly get or how forgetful they get about everything they did.
Yeah. And this is what Fox had to pay $787 million to keep their employees from going under oath and telling the truth about what they did.
But
so it's worth it to them to pay $750 million to stave off that. Absolutely. All right. So we first have to put the fire out like they did at Notre Dame.
Yeah, that's step one. That's got to be step one. Put the fire, because it's still burning.
Yep, right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's up to us, all of us, because we are real Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And MAGA are the despoilers of America. And if they want to prove otherwise, if they want to prove that they're independent constitutional conservatives who love the Constitution, they can damn well take the next 20 years in democracy's penalty box, doing good works and apologizing to prove it.
I have never heard of a single never-Trumper apologizing to the left for treating us like shit when we were right all along. Never once. Never, ever once.
I will say that the chairman of the RNC, who was gay and came out as gay once he wasn't.
Ken Mellman, yeah.
Yeah. Mellman did go and do good work.
Yeah, he did.
And transformed himself into, if not redeemed, he got out of the limelight and he went and did good works to try to make up for it.
You know who could have followed his path? Michael Steele. But Michael Steele had to get that spotlight, man. So Michael Steele just is a fucking windsock. Whichever way the wind's blowing, he's in favor of that thing. Yeah. And when you hear him ream out what we've talked about this before.
Yeah, and you wrote about it.
Reaming out Byron Donald, because Byron Donald got hired by the Republican Party to tell white racists in the GOP what they wanted to hear. Dude, that used to be your job.
That was you.
And now you're like, what? Me? No, it had nothing to do with me. So that's why you have to spend some time in the penalty box and you have to go away and do good works and maybe apologize to the people that you shit on, Liz Cheney. So as you were clawing your way to power, the people you stomped on to get there were people like us. And yes, it'll be hard work. Of course it'll be. And yes, we will face opposition every step of the way by all the usual suspects. The old, entitled establishment types who would be perfectly happy with Trumpism without Trump, as long as they get to keep their both sides do it cult intact. And yes.
And their white supremacy intact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their feeling of superiority intact. And yeah, it might take a generation to accomplish, but so what?
Yeah. Yeah. The typical length of one human generation ranges between 20 to 30 years. Driftglass and I have each been at this blogging thing for 21 years plus, and as activist citizens for longer than that. So in this burning cathedral analogy, all of us OG bloggers have been a ragtag bucket brigade, trying as hard as we could to at least contain all the callous, reckless fires the Republicans were setting long before Trump showed up, and doing all of it every day while being dismissed by the very serious people of the legacy media as crackpots and alarmists.
And now we don't exist at all. So nobody promised it would be easy. Nobody promised it would be quick, but many of us are still at it because it is necessary work, and it is more necessary now than ever.
And someday, long after this convention, long after the signs come down and the crowd stop cheering and the band stop playing, may it be said of our campaign that we kept the faith. May it be said of our party in 1980 that we found our faith again. And may it be said of us both in dark passages and in bright days, in the words of Tennyson that my brothers quoted and loved, and that have special meaning for me now. I am a part of all that I have met. Too much is taken, much abides. That which we are, we are. One equal temper of heroic hearts, strong in will to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. For me, a few hours ago, this campaign came to an end. For all those whose cares have been our concern, the work goes on, the cause endures, the hope still lives, and the dream shall never die.
Now, I was going to show off my writing chops, because it is my blogiversary, by reading excerpts from the nearly 12,000 blog posts I counted I've written by way of reminding people that the tip jar at driftglass.blogspot.com is open for business. But, the hour is late, and we have other things that need doing. So how about just a quick news roundup, Blue Gal?
Yes, Driftglass. Let's do a news roundup.
All right.
And people should go read Driftglass's blog because he's a great writer.
Oh, that's my wife saying that, so,
I fell in love with you by reading your blog. So there you go.
Well, hey, now I'm blushing.
Well, you got the woman. You got the woman from blogging. You got liquor from blogging.
Blogging has been very good to me. I got liquor. I got the woman of my dreams. I mean, come on, man. I'm doing really for a guy who should have been dead under a bridge at age 40. I'm doing great. Yeah. I'm doing fantastic. So don't shed a tear for me.
We have a lot to be grateful for, don't we? All right, but getting back to things we're not so grateful for, Axios.
Yeah.
This is Axios yesterday. Quote, Republicans are considering reductions in federal health spending to help pay for a budget bill containing as much as $200 billion to fund the Iran war and immigration enforcement. It's hard for me to even think of Iran as a war.
I know.
It's just bumbling assholery.
Yeah.
And it's us doing it.
Yep.
Anyway, this is more from Axios. New efforts to rein in health programs are sure to be, what's that word again, Driftglass?
Oh, it's one of your favorites.
Controversial.
Controversial.
They're not controversial. Everybody thinks it sucks.
Yeah, everybody.
Yeah. And open the GOP up to election year attacks that they're cutting health care to pay for an unpopular war. Axios,
Yeah.
They're cutting health care to pay for an unpopular war. That's not controversial. It's what they're doing.
And yeah, my opponents may use my terrible behavior against me, Blue Gal.
Yes, right.
This is from NBC News, March 29th. Quote, President Donald Trump said Sunday that he would like to, quote, take the oil in Iran, unquote, and is considering seizing the export hub of Karg Island, which is responsible for more than 90% of Iran's oil exports. In an interview with the Financial Times, Trump said his preference would be to take the oil. To be honest with you, my favorite thing is to take the oil in Iran, but some stupid people back in the U.S. say, why are you doing that? But they're stupid people, he said, unquote.
My favorite thing?
Yeah, his favorite thing is stealing other people's stuff. But stupid people try to stop me because they're stupid. You know,
and he literally said that.
Yeah, and I just want to thank the 70 million plus bigots and imbeciles who visited this catastrophe on us by nominating and voting this lunatic for office 3 fucking times and putting him in the White House twice. This is entirely your fault, and we are never, ever going to forget it. Anyway.
Nope. And from The Guardian today, again, I just roll my eyes. Quote, get your own oil. Trump launches tirade against Europe for not joining Iran war. On his Truth Social website, the U.S. president told governments worried about fuel prices to go get your own oil by force from the Gulf, comments that sent oil prices even higher. By the way, he did not fill up the strategic oil reserve before he started this war.
No.
He could have done it.
He could have done it for cheap, but he didn't want to because he had that ballroom. He had ballrooms to make, Blue Gal.
And Hegseth said, let's go break stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. And it'll distract everybody from Epstein. He didn't have time. And it would filling the strategic oil reserve wasn't going to distract from Epstein.
No. Hey, look over here. We're pumping gas into a big hole in the ground. Nope.
This is more from The Guardian. In a tentative sign of a more proactive European pushback to the war, it was revealed on Tuesday that France had blocked Israeli planes from flying weapons through its airspace, while Italy refused last-minute permission for U.S. bombers to land in Sicily. Spain had already denied the U.S. use of its bases and airspace for the war, and on Tuesday, Madrid's defense minister said the country would not accept lectures from anyone. The UK, meanwhile, has allowed the U.S. to use its bases for a war its government says is illegal, but has nonetheless received public admonishment from Trump, unquote.
The sound you're hearing is the transatlantic alliance being nuked, being destroyed by one guy and all the assholes around him. This is from MS Now's Kyle Cheney on Twitter, March 30th, 2026. Quote, Trump calls the Supreme Court stupid and dumb again as he pre-butts another likely loss over birthright citizenship. This is actually Trump's own Truth Social thingy. Birthright citizen is not about rich people from China and the rest of the world who want their children, hundreds of thousands more, for pay to ridiculously become citizens of the United States of America. It's about the babies of slaves. We're the only country in the world that dignifies the subject with even discussion. Look at the dates on this long ago legislation. It's called an amendment to the Constitution, you asshole. The exact end of the Civil War. Shocked by this. Someone read it to him and he was shocked. The world is getting rich selling citizenship to our country, while at the same time laughing at how stupid our U.S. court system has become. Tariffs, ! Dumb judges and justices will not a great country make, unquote.
From the Huffington Post, March 28th, President Donald Trump's golf habit has now cost taxpayers at least $101.2 million in travel and security expenses since its return to office, a figure that is 2/3 of his first-term golf total, and has him on track to spend $300 million by the end of his second term, according to a HuffPost analysis. That's my money. That's your money. That's our health insurance money.
Yep, sure is.
Spent on golf for him. Trump's arrival at his golf course in West Palm Beach, Florida on Saturday morning marks his 56th visit there since his 2025 inauguration and his 110th day on a golf course that he owns, meaning he has played golf on more than 1/4 of his days since returning to the presidency. Trump needed 2 full years to hit the $100 million mark in his first term, during which he played golf a total of 293 days at his own courses at a cost to taxpayers of $151.5 million. I'm old enough to remember when he said he wasn't going to have time to play golf.
No,
in the campaign
busy.
in 2016.
So busy.
HuffPost has based its figures for transportation and security for Trump's golf trips on a report to Congress during his first term in office, unquote.
Now, from the Daily Beast yesterday, Donald Trump's using his new favorite word. What is his old favorite word? Donald Trump has complained that a stupid lawsuit forced him to reveal plans to build a top-secret military base underneath his White House ballroom. The 79-year-old president was defending his $400 million vanity project while speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One on Sunday night after a New York Times article over the weekend exposed the shoddy nature of its construction and design. It sucks, people. It's a typical Republican shit show. While holding comically large placards detailing how the completed ballroom might look, Trump also gave updates on what is being built beneath the area where the White House East Wing once stood. The military is building a big complex under the ballroom, which has come out recently because of a stupid lawsuit that was filed, he said. The ballroom essentially becomes a shed or shield for what's being built under the military, including from drones and including from any other thing, Trump added. The glass or the windows, you see the big windows, the glass is extremely thick. It's high-grade bulletproof glass, so all of the windows are bulletproof, unquote. And the drapes, Blue Gal. The drapes
Don't forget the drapes.
Gorgeous. And look at the molding. Look at the crown molding. Don't look at the Epstein files. Look over there at the beautiful drapes and the crown molding.
From the Daily Mail, March 28th, quote, multiple current and former senior DHS officials who spoke with the Daily Mail said Stephen Miller's heavy-handed oversight has made him the driving force behind Trump's immigration crackdown, while also fueling chaos and confusion within the department. During his 10 a.m. calls with immigration leaders, Miller was demanding agents be sent out to areas in Minneapolis where DHS knew there was a heavy presence of protesters to force confrontations. Two DHS senior sources told the Daily Mail. One official noted that Miller repeatedly urged agents to engage protesters so the administration could win the PR battle.
As you said, it's just a show.
It's a show on Fox.
Just a show on Fox.
With an audience of one.
And if people get killed, well, that's not their problem.
It's to show dominance of Trump.
Yep.
So we need to engage these protesters and we need to vanquish them by force of arms. They need to be vanquished by any force necessary. He's talking about American citizens.
Right.
He's talking about white women in Minnesota. He's talking about ICU nurses. Miller reportedly told immigration leaders, according to the source, mere hours after immigration agents fatally shot Alex Preddy, an ICU nurse, Miller called the victim an assassin on social media, unquote.
Yeah, there's no coming back from that.
He better not come anywhere near me, ever.
He better not be in this country after the
I have
administration
a feeling
change.
he's going to have to flee the country.
Yeah, because he's a straight up fucking Nazi.
Yeah,
and someone who facilitates the murder of American citizens because he's a sadistic.
He's going to face justice.
Yeah. Well, again, that's a good test case. The first person who says, "Let's put the past behind us. Let's move on. Let's unite the country."
Stephen Miller. You're going to let Stephen Miller walk free.
Yeah.
Really?
The question to that person is, what about Stephen Miller, who orchestrated the murder of American citizens as entertainment for Fox News? Do you think he should be just forgiven and forgotten?
The
all
PR
move on?
war. He killed 2 American citizens, white American citizens. I'm not trying to be racist here. I'm saying the Fox News audience didn't sign up for that.
Yeah. Yep. All right.
They wanted Mexicans dragged away. That's what they wanted.
Because they're all murderers. And
because they're all a bunch of fucking racists.
This is from the Washington Post, March 29th. Quote, Hegseth's proselytizing alarms Pentagon insiders. Longtime norms are being upended by the proselytizing Christian campaign on Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, say multiple former high-ranking military officials and experts on religion and law. Rather than boosting cohesion through a more universal spiritual uplift, they say the new approach violates the Constitution. Duh. And undermines the bonds of mutual respect between troops that are essential, especially in wartime. Every month at the Pentagon, Hegseth hosts evangelical worship services that legal experts say are unprecedented. His social media profile and public comments routinely espouse his understanding of Christianity, which is one that would dominate American life and cast those who disagree with him as God's enemies. Unquote.
This is the Seven Mountain Mandate.
Yeah.
Google it.
Again, I blame St. Anselm, but that might be going a little too far.
You don't have to go back that far, Driftglass.
No.
The Seven Mountain Mandate is very well funded.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's all about injecting white male evangelical Christianity dominance into every aspect of our culture and society.
It's also called The Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
From the New York fucking Times yesterday, quote, the United States Coast Guard is allowing a Russian tanker full of crude oil to reach Cuba, delivering a critical supply of energy to the island nation after months of an effective oil blockade by the Trump administration, according to a U.S. official briefed on the matter. The Russian ship's arrival would shift the trajectory of a rapidly accelerating crisis in Cuba, buying the island nation at least a few weeks before its fuel reserves run out, analysts said. It would also reduce pressure on a Cuban government facing a looming economic collapse and escalating threats from Washington, and show that, at least for now, the island can still depend on its longtime ally, Russia.
Yeah.
Unquote.
And it can drive you crazy trying to untangle all the ways in which Russia's playing every side against every other side.
Yep. Yep.
And Iran is playing every side against every other side and winning.
Because we have stupid leadership. We have
stupid leadership.
We have a bunch of Nazis and a brain-dead figurehead running this country.
From Politico, March 29th, quote, a month into Iran, the GOP's political reality sinks in. In the Phoenix metro area, Berlin, the Maricopa County chair, said door-to-door canvassing has become more difficult since the onset of the war.
You don't say.
Yeah. We're even going around canvassing neighborhoods and registered Republicans are yelling out the door, go away, or I'm calling the police, Berlin said. I find that very discouraging. I find that very reassuring. Voters' frustrations, he said, stem from the war or the economy, and the economy is defined largely by energy prices. Across rural America, the pain is even more acute. Farmers in Pennsylvania, North Dakota, and other agriculture-heavy states are feeling the impact of disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz, which sends fertilizer prices skyrocketing just ahead of planting season. Great timing, guys. Some producers have had to shake up their plans last minute and plant new crops that are the less reliant on fertilizer. The scramble could lead to lower crop yields, which potentially mean higher food prices. Again, great timing, guys. This summer, North Dakota Farmers Union President Matt Perdue said, unquote.
We didn't get a chance yet to talk about CPAC this weekend.
Oh, please, go right ahead.
But I liked what one guy said. He said CPAC was such a failure that Grindr reported no site issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody showed up for CPAC.
Yeah, CPAC was so dumb and vacant and pointless that it might risk being appointed Secretary of State if Marco Rubio steps down.
Marco Rubio, dumb as toast Marco Rubio, decides to step down. From Cricks and Liars, my old home, today, quote, I want my vote back. It's not how that works.
You don't get, there's no takebacks.
Disgusted viewers crush MAGA TV network with anti-Trump mail. Conservative viewers unhappy about the war in Iran overwhelmed the pro-MAGA Real America's Voice network with emails opposing President Donald Trump. Unquote.
And
but you voted for him because he's not a politician, and you should have your teeth drilled by not a dentist.
Mm-hmm. And have your car serviced by not a mechanic.
Yeah.
And your plane flown by not a pilot.
Not a pilot.
Mm-hmm.
I like him because he's not a pilot. All right. Feel free to write to both of us at proleftpodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing from you. Be aware that if you write to us at any of our addresses, we reserve the right to read your email or U.S. Postal Service. Go, postal unions. Letter on the air unless you say otherwise. And we thank you for supporting our show on at patreon.com/pro-left-pod.
Another thing you can do, which doesn't cost anything, is to share our show on social media. If you love this podcast, hook it up on a date with somebody who you think will love it as well. And we thank you for doing that.
Hey, Driftglass, how are the Internet Kitties doing this week?
Well, as experts on gravity, Blue Gal, the Internet Kitties say if you keep knocking over the same candle, don't act surprised when the cathedral burns.
Let's think about living. Let's think about loving. Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the bopping and the loving, lovey-dovey. Let's forget about the wine and the crying, the shooting and the dying, and the fellow with a switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life.
The Professional Left podcast is produced and recorded under a Creative Commons license. Copyright DGBG Productions. ProLeftPod.com.